Before we start the podcast, a quick word from today's sponsor, eFulfilment Service. Here at VendLab, we help brands launch and scale internationally every single day. But one of the biggest frustrations we see is sellers struggling to navigate warehousing and Amazon FBA prep without getting crushed by hidden fees and locked into terrible terms. Managing an Amazon business is time-consuming enough without having to worry about your logistics bottlenecking your growth. That's why we point brands to eFulfilment Service. They're a family-owned 3PL who's been in business for over 25 years, handling everything from FBA prep and Amazon overflow warehousing to direct-to-consumer fulfillment. And they built their entire model around making things simple for growing sellers. The best part? eFulfilment Service has zero setup fees, no minimum order requirements, and no long-term contracts. You only pay for what you use. Stop letting logistics throttle your Amazon sales. Head on over to efulfillmentservice.com/vendlab to start an 8-week risk-free trial today. Again, that is efulfillmentservice.com/vendlab. We've also put a link right in the show notes so it's super easy to grab. Thanks so much for eFulfillment Service for partnering with us on this episode. Hello and welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. I'm here with my partner in crime, Tom. So Tom, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, I thought we'd talk about shipping, Trevor. How do you fancy that?
Oh, I like that. It's all about shipping, in my opinion. The shipping is almost the most important thing.
Well, I think people pay huge amounts of attention to their conversion rate on their website and their social media and their Google advertising, but I don't think people put nearly as much time and thought into shipping. And I think we've seen that when you make changes to shipping, you can see quite dramatic impacts on sales, as much as anything else, if not more so. So I suppose my first question to you is, how important do you think shipping actually is?
Well, I think, it's part of if you consider the whole the product that you're selling, it's the product, but it's also the delivery. And it's not as important as the price of the product, but people do notice that. And they also notice how the product is delivered to them. So I think that it's a vital part of the whole e-commerce process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we accept that it is a tool as much as anything else that you can use to drive both sales and profit, let's have that as our kind of underlying theme. So what shipping options might one offer on a website in particular?
Well, I think that the fundamental question is whether it's free shipping or not. And there's reasons to choose both. I think, so free shipping, when I talk about free shipping, it's not really, obviously someone has to pay for it, right? So what we're talking about there is including the shipping and the price of the item. The other option is to have shipping on top. And I think, there's pros and cons of both. I think with free shipping, it's easier for the customer to understand. The customers like it because they think they're getting something for nothing. And so your conversion rate will go up. And it's also, each product can be priced to be profitable. So it's easier to price things. Now, there's a reason why, eBay encourages you to do free shipping. They'll give you, you're only a prime listing if you've got a free shipping option. Amazon, if you do FBA, you have to do free shipping. There's a reason why they do that. And I think if you ever wanted the inspiration for e-commerce, one of the big guys doing. So the other option is to have either, a charge for shipping or have free shipping over a particular threshold. So the disadvantage of having free shipping is disadvantage, advantage, it does make all the products more expensive. So you have to add that shipping in. Now, that can be good because it means that you might get closer to the RRP you have to keep to. Then if you've got low value items, so if you're selling, for example, something under like £5 or $5, quite a lot of things are like that. If you've got, I used to sell, bottle teats and they were like, £3 or something. You have to add £3 or £4 worth of shipping on top of that, which makes them look quite expensive. So if you're the kind of site that has a lot of low value items which people put into their basket, then people will be paying for the shipping multiple times. And it's quite hard to manage that if you've got a free shipping option. The other thing is that people do is they have free shipping over a particular threshold, which gets around this kind of this thing of the shipping making these low value items expensive, and so people do it $30, $50, $100 or something like that. I think with that, yes, I think that's a good idea, but you will get people will then tend to do it. You'll tend to get a lot of orders just over the line with that, and I don't know if that's you need to look at your economics to see if that works or not. So
I think when you're forcing people to do something they don't necessarily want to do, I don't think that's necessarily the best way of working. I think you will see definitely a drop off in terms of conversion rate, and you'll see that particularly when customers get through to checkout, they will see the cost of shipping, and that's where they drop out. So
So I think, yeah, I
we have
think
seen
we've
it.
agreed. We've agreed, haven't we, Tom? We've also seen it that
We've seen it.
all that it actually free shipping, I think, is the best option. I mean,
Yeah, and
oddly, I
certainly
think
we recommend it.
actually, I think I'd recommend free shipping as the easiest option. Now, I think in a perfect world, actually, you charge shipping on everything because that actually gets people the best deal. Because
Mhm.
if you're buying you only because if you buy multiple items, then you're only paying shipping once. But I
Yeah.
think it's people don't like seeing an extra charge at checkout, particularly when
Yeah.
other people are offering free shipping.
And I would remind people, I think we discussed this in a previous podcast, that um, on Google takes into account the cost of shipping. So when it's doing the price comparisons, you're not penalized if you do, but by Google, certainly, if you add
Yeah,
shipping
it's
in.
still yeah. I mean, I think it still does make things look a bit more expensive. I think it's people who don't include shipping, it does can make the items look cheaper. But then, of course, so you might get more click throughs to your site, but then your conversion rate will probably be lower.
Yeah.
There's no perfect answer, is there? But I mean, I think on balance, I think free shipping. That's my vote.
Yeah. Okay. So that's free shipping. Standard versus express. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think it's important to. I mean, I think it's important on a website to have two levels of shipping because you've got um, you've got customers who just want to get it slowly and want to get the best price. You've got people for whom they just want to get it quickly and they're happy to pay extra for that. So I would recommend having a standard service, which is like, say, a week or something like that, and then an express service, which
Yeah.
you charge for. Now,
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, what we do is we just do, next day delivery and everything." Now, I think they're missing a trick there because that's a thing you can charge for.
Yeah.
And also you're kind of like if you have free shipping, next day shipping, and everything, you're creating more work for yourself unnecessarily. I don't think people expect it. And Amazon, for example, they make you pay for next day shipping. Um, so people don't expect it, and they are willing to they're willing to pay for it. And if you offer it at standard, then you've got to get everything out that day. Whereas if you have a standard shipping thing, you can deal with at the beginning of the day. You can do your express stuff, get that out of the way. That's the premium service they've paid for, and then you do everything else. And life is fractionally easier.
Mm. Everyone makes their own kind of trade off between speed and price, or speed and sorry, price and quality. So people are always making these trade offs. And if you only force them down one route, you're not allowing people to choose what's most important to them. Some people would prefer a slower but cheaper product. Others are faster but quicker. So I think give them the choice.
Well, it's a bit like when you go to Starbucks, they'll give you the extra squirt of cream on top for a quid. Some people there's people who are price sensitive, and you have effectively one price for them, and there's people who are less price sensitive, and effectively you have another price for them.
Absolutely.
So,
Tracked or untracked?
okay, well, I mean, this is another thing. I think, well, everything's moving towards tracked. If it already hasn't really got there, um, the obviously tracked is more expensive, but I think that almost everything sends tracked these days. Though on Raw Mail, you do have that. It's not tracked, but it's kind of different levels of tracked. So you have like tracked where you can see where the package is, and you have tracked where it just is a kind of like a delivery scan. So like they scan it when they take it in, and they scan it when it's delivered. I think it really depends on I think you need something, particularly if you're doing domestically, you need some sort of tracked, scan confirmation. And I think people expect that. I think internationally, well, I mean, I certainly used to send a lot of things untracked internationally because it was so much cheaper. But I think if you can possibly do it, send it via the best track service you can. But then if you want to send, then it's a price thing. People don't want to. Are people going to want to pay for it or not?
Yeah.
Cheaper things, send them via a kind of a confirmed delivery thing. More expensive, send them via a proper tracked service.
So while we're talking about cost, have you got any thoughts about choosing a courier service?
Hmm. Okay. I would say that. I mean, depending on presuming we're talking about website sales, so we're not talking about fulfillment houses and stuff like that. I think raw mail is good for the money, and the raw mail tract is good. I think that and someone in a raw mail van turns up and they've got raw mail uniform and stuff. Um, Whereas other things like Every, you've got someone will turn up and it's just some guy in a white van, and it's a bit, concerning just giving these people so much stuff and they just kind of, waltz off with it. And my experience with things like, these cheaper carriers is that they will just shove stuff over the fence in a way that you just don't get with raw mail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Our experience has suggested that with couriers, you pay a bit more and you get more in terms of just quality of delivery service.
I'm saying particularly in the UK, which is what I know about. I mean, like something like Every or what's the other one? Yodel will be like 10% cheaper, but you'll get far more problems
Yeah,
and they will just shove it over the fence.
and that will manifest itself as customer service issues. So it'll mean what you save in terms of shipping, you'll probably spend in terms of employing more customer service people,
We
and that
refuse
has
to
an
ban this.
influence.
What will happen is people will say, "Oh, that they got thrown over the fence," and at what point do you? But you have far more problems. Like well, I personally sent something. It was via eBay. It went via Yodel, and they left it. It was a block of flats, and they left it just left it by the doorway of the block of flats, and it wasn't. This person said they didn't get it. I thought, well, I don't know. It's just like there's so many more things like that happen with like things like Yodel.
Mhm.
But then lots of people, I don't know, it's cheaper. I mean, I don't know anyway. There's no
Okay.
right answer.
What about shipping internationally? I mean, we
Oh,
always
well,
talk about expanding international sales as a great way of growing sales, but the hardest part can often be getting the stuff physically to the customer.
so you've got a number of options here, right? I mean, obviously, if you do, I think you should strive to make your international delivery the same as if they're getting it domestically. So, I mean, there's different options. One is but then you've got the kind of complexity side of things. So, it's undoubtedly easier just to have a single warehouse and just ship it all from wherever your nexus is, right? Now, imagine that's the UK. Um, you have the thing as you're shipping into the EU or wherever. I mean, it used to be a lot easier before Brexit. A lot of stuff gets stuck at customs now. It never used to do that. Um, so you got different options. You could send it via a track service, and that can be quite a lot more expensive. And actually, a lot of these track services aren't that great. Um, or you could send it via like a DPD or something, which is much better, but then much more expensive. I think if you can possibly do, I think if your volumes are low, or if somehow you can get a good service, I think it's easier to do it from from your home warehouse. I think if you can possibly do it, use a fulfillment house and ship it over, because it's just that local delivery is just that much better, and you can ideally you would have like free shipping in each country you do it from. Um, because that's what people expect.
Well, you've got the added complication post Brexit of the whole VAT system. So if you're selling products that are more than €150, then there is duty collectible on those by the person who buys it. And if you're shipping from the UK, and people really hate that, they order a product and then they get stung for duty as well. So
Well,
one
you
way
can do
around
like a reverse charge thing on that, but it is difficult. Um,
So one way around is you ship your product to a provider, a third-party logistics warehouse in somewhere in Europe, and you sort out the duty as you're shipping it, and then you can ship directly to consumers from there, and that can be an option, but it adds to cost without a doubt.
yeah, I mean it's easy. Well, we're going to talk about Amazon in a minute, but um,
Well, should we talk about Amazon now?
yes, let's talk about Amazon now. But
Amazon.
obviously, yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you're an Amazon seller, and most people are, then you can use Pan-European FBA, which means which means you can deliver into a single warehouse in Europe and have it available, Prime eligible throughout the whole of the EU. Well, actually, yeah, throughout whichever countries Amazon delivers to. Um, which I think is a great service. And they also have a service whereby part of that service, if you're in the UK, you can ship the stuff to Weybridge, and they will inject it into their system, which is much cheaper than doing it yourself. Um, they also have, if you use FBA in the UK, they have something called Remote FBA. It used to be called the European Fulfilment Network, where you make your FBA stock available into the EU, and it is more expensive, but then you don't have to worry about VAT and stuff like that. Whereas if
Yeah,
you use Pan-European FBA, you need certain VAT registrations, which can be which are an extra expense.
yeah, yeah. No, but remote fulfillment is fundamentally you sell to Amazon in the UK, so it appears in your accounts as a UK sale, and you account for the VAT in the UK. So it is simpler, but your products will be more expensive in the market because Amazon adds a fee, and the FBA charge is obviously more expensive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a no-brainer though, I think. If you've got the rights to do it,
Yeah.
I think you just do it.
So we're doing it for a number of clients at the moment, and you won't see the kind of volumes you'll see in your UK account. But if you're getting an extra 20% sales, you're really doing nothing other than turning it on and organising the listings in those countries. Then why wouldn't you? You do need to
Yeah.
make sure the listings. But yeah, it's easy money. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, so what else about Amazon shipping? FBA, FBM, where do you stand on that?
Yes. Okay. So I think that FBA. Well, let's talk about Prime first. It's very important to be Prime eligible. So that's that because there's millions of Prime subscribers. Actually, I'm not even going to bother explaining what Prime is. Um, and they are if you your products are Prime eligible, your sales. What do you think? I mean, they double probably.
Well, when we used to turn our Prime badge on and off, it was about 80% the uplift,
But
or the
lot.
yeah. So pretty well call it doubling or halving if you turn your Prime badge off.
Yeah.
And
So
that's a combination of speed and price of delivery. So yeah,
yeah, so I think, I mean, so there's different options. If you're selling something on Amazon, you can be fulfilled by merchant, which is FBM, and you can use it fulfilled by Amazon, which is FBA, and FBA is where it goes into the Amazon's warehouse. Now, obviously, the benefit of doing FBM is you can just do it from your own warehouse. You don't need to bother with the fiddly Amazon, crazy the fiddly Amazon shipments, which is a bit of a pain, like everything on Amazon. But it there's two reasons to use FBA. One is the sales uplift, and secondly, it's actually cheaper. I mean, if you're sending an item via Warmail 24 or something like that, or even 48, um, and you're sending it to an Amazon customer, it's actually Amazon can do that cheaper than you can do it yourself, particularly when you take into account pick and pack and the packaging.
yeah.
And I think that up to about 2 kilos, I think it's cheaper, um, and you get that Prime eligibility. So I think if you're serious about Amazon sales, then I think you need to be an FBA.
Yeah. And the difference can be quite a lot. So, I mean, when we did it, it was roughly £1 when we did a big switch, in terms of cost. But if you translate that into price, by the time you add on your margin, VAT, Amazon's fees, then you can actually, you know, reduce your price by £2. And if you're selling competitively against other people in the same ASIN, that's an awful lot. That's enough to get you a load more of the buy box.
Just keep the money for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we do see, with clients where they're selling the same SKU, both FBA and FBM, the FBA SKU tends to outsell FBM by 3 or 4 to 1. So there's
Yeah, it
quite a
will
lot.
get. I mean, FBA SKUs. I mean, the thing, FBA SKUs do get precedence. So they will rank higher in the for the buy box. They'll get a higher buy
They
box
do.
percentage. And the other thing is that
Yeah.
people will actually. There's a button where you can choose is Prime eligible, and therefore, if you're not Prime eligible, it'll filter those things out. So if you're trying to build your brand on Amazon and it's not Prime eligible, some people just won't even see it because they've got their Prime account, and they will just tick that only Prime things, because
Yeah.
there's always going to be a Prime eligible version of the kind of thing you're selling, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously it's possible to be Prime eligible whilst when you fulfill it yourself. Tell me about that.
Well, that's so-called self-fulfilled Prime, or SFP. I mean, that is quite a good. Okay, in order to do that, you need to send the stuff to Amazon's quite strict rules. So you need to basically deliver it, I think, on time 99.75% of time or something. It's an awful lot. And Amazon gets quite if you miss the target, Amazon gets upset with you, even if it's the courier's fault and not your fault. Um, but if you really can't do things, use FBA. Now, for example, if you've got a really massive catalog, or if if you're in apparel and you've just got thousands and thousands of sizes, and you just can't, for whatever reason, can't get them all up to Amazon, then I think it's better than nothing.
Mm,
I think I'd recommend that, but I think it's second best using FBA.
yeah. And not only that, but it tends to, what happens is that Amazon becomes essentially the tail wagging your particular dog. So you end up picking Amazon products first in the morning, you know, rather than your own website products. So you'll pick Amazon first just so you can dispatch them on time. You'll need people coming in on Saturdays so that you can get stuff out. I mean, Amazon ends up taking over all of your operating systems, which, it is just a big challenge, and it may not be right for you. And you might be trying to build your brand with your website, but if Amazon's always taking precedence, you'll be letting down website customers rather than Amazon customers. So
Yeah, it's the thing is, I mean, there's Amazon's just got more of a stick to hit you with.
yeah,
I mean, they've got feedback, they've got AZ claims, they've got this whole SFP thing. So you do end up, canceling your Amazon orders first. Sorry,
yeah,
your website orders first.
correct. Yeah, and
If Amazon
prioritizing
oversells, which
stock.
they
So
would tend to
um,
do.
yeah. Okay. Anything else about FBA? What about large and bulky items?
Oh, right. Okay. There is a system, and I think it's called Large and Bulky on Amazon, where you can deliver these items like furniture and stuff like that. FBA are Prime eligible, and people can do things like choose delivery times. So they do have programs for these items these items which are not suitable. You don't really want to ship around too much and make them Prime eligible.
Yeah, and we've also seen, in terms of that cost difference between shipping yourself and Amazon shipping through FBA, the kind of the point where it's roughly the same cost is about 2 kilos. Anything more than 2 kilos is usually cheaper for you to ship yourself from your own warehouse. So
Yes,
that,
and also, I mean the storage. You got to remember, for something's an FBA, you've got to pay storage, and I think the storage is for small items. Shoebox size, even up to shoebox, is pretty minimal, particularly if they're going for the system quickly. But if you've got bigger items, then it does begin to become expensive. And also things like furniture and stuff, you don't really want to be shipping them around too much. They're difficult to move,
mm,
and the more they move, the more they get damaged.
yeah, makes sense. Okay, what about talk about Amazon? What about eBay?
Oh, eBay. Well, I mean, eBay doesn't have a fulfillment house, but I mean, okay. The important thing on eBay, I think, is if you want to have a premium listing, you have to have a free shipping option, and if you want to, I think you also have to have a next day option as well. So it's important to offer those two things. The other thing is in the UK, there's something called the Global Shipping Program, which means that if you don't want to ship internationally yourself, you can turn that on. And what happens is Amazon, you ship the stuff to eBay's website, eBay's warehouse, and then eBay will ship it internationally for you there, and you don't have to bother about it. And I think that's worth it's again an incremental sale thing. So it's worth doing.
Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of assumed for most of this chat that the option is kind of shipping it yourself or Amazon. What if you don't want to ship it yourself? What if you don't want a warehouse?
Well, you can use a fulfillment house. Now, I think, and what fulfillment house do is that it's a warehouse. You take the stuff in, and they will do. You effectively send them a list of orders, and they will do it all for you. Um, I think if you can possibly do that, I think it's a good idea. I mean, talking as someone who had his own warehouse, it was
Mhm.
expensive and difficult to run. And I think that you need to have a business that doesn't need a warehouse.
I've got to say, there's always a joy when you don't have any stock to worry about.
Well, I think you need someone else. You're going to ask yourself to quit you because if you're a brand owner or if you're a retailer, unless you're really big, your competitive advantage won't be your systems. Unless you've got and again, I mean, it's the same if you're developing your own software. I think your competitive advantage is not your warehouse. It's just a cost and a liability. And I think
Yeah.
that if you can possibly do it, and you need to make sure that the products you're selling have got a high enough margin that you can do them, you can put it into a fulfillment house. And you need to
Mhm.
make sure that particularly that fulfillment house can do seller fulfill prime or can do the things you need in terms of seller fulfill prime and then even delivering into FBA. So I'd recommend a warehouse if you can, fulfillment house if you can possibly do it.
Essentially, it takes a fixed cost and turns it into a variable cost. So your shipping cost then is in relation to your sales. If your sales go up or down, it doesn't have an overly dramatic impact.
I mean, Amazon does have something called multi-channel fulfillment, where you can do fulfillment from Amazon warehouse. Now, It is much more. They give you very good rates if you do Amazon fulfillment. They give you much worse rates if you do use MCF, but it still might be worth it because you've only got $1 stock then.
Yeah. Yeah. And having one pool of stock is always a good thing. If you've got two pools of stock, you're always going to have the wrong stuff in the wrong places. So
Yeah.
yeah, MCF, I think, is pretty easy to turn on. You need to use a third-party app, but there's a number of them out there that are recommended by Amazon, and it's not that big a deal. So especially if you sell on Amazon and a website, probably worth considering. A 3PL might be cheaper. 3PL in combination with FBA might be more cost effective, but up to you. Do the numbers. Um, okay, so we talked quite a lot about getting stuff to your consumers. Occasionally, stuff needs to come back. You have returns. Tell me about those.
Oh, returns. Gosh. The question is, I suppose, one thing would be the return period. I think that you should probably offer 30 days at least. Some people offer three. I think the minimum in the UK you can offer is 14 now. I think 30 is probably pretty standard. And some people offer free returns. I don't know. And I think you will get more returns if you have free returns. That's the issue. A lot more returns, probably some multiple of them. Now, my experience of this is when I had a website, and that didn't get that many returns because they weren't free returns. Amazon was free returns, and 90% of the returns were Amazon. And being Amazon, people they just return these things back ruined. But so you got to think. But it's a great. It's a great, marketing, thing if you can say I do free returns.
Yeah.
I think people love that, and maybe it's important for things like clothing. But the other thing is if you're selling quite big items. It's great if you're doing clothing or if you're doing toys or something, and they're quite small and they can be taken to a post office. But if you've got, imagine yourself furniture, it's really difficult to do returns. You don't want to do free returns on those. I bought a table tennis table recently and sent it back. That was a bit of a stupid thing to have done. Never mind. Don't do that, boys and girls.
Yeah, I'd say how you deal with returns. It should fit in with your brand. If you're cheap and cheerful, if you're selling on price, then by all means charge for them. If you are a premium retailer, premium brand, then maybe it's something that you should do. Offer free returns to be in keeping with your brand. Okay, well, I think we probably covered quite a lot of stuff.
It was far more exciting than we thought it was. Far more to talk about than we thought we did. It's anyway. It's just so exciting.
I think it's a lever to both impact your sales and your profitability. So people tend to set up their shipping and then they don't think about it for years. What we're suggesting you do is just think about it a bit more often. Play around with how you do it. Do some experiments. What works for you and your brand and your business model. Try free shipping, try, at least crunch the numbers on FBA or a 3PL and just have a think about it. Don't just always deal.
Also, just remember that these, fulfillment houses and Amazon, for when they're probably better at it than you are, and just accept that then way and just be happy with it.
It's one less thing to worry about. Have you got enough warehouse people over Christmas? Your warehouse guy's gone off sick. That means you're going to have to go and help.
You never have enough warehouse people. That's the problem. Never.
Yeah, it's one monkey off your back. Okay, that's shipping. Trevor, what's inspired you this week?
Well, I was thinking about this. Navalny, the Navalny, the Russian dissident who died. He wrote a book recently, which I haven't read yet, but I did see the movie about him. He did one called Navalny, which was particularly about how because he got poisoned, and then he ended up in Germany. And then one of the things he did was he then rang up. They found out who had poisoned him, and he rang them up. And it's the most jaw-dropping piece of TV I've ever seen. I just cannot recommend watching it enough. But he's also the bravest man that ever lived, and a real inspiration to us all. He's far braver than me. Quite why he went back to Russia is a bit of a mystery to me.
He chose to go back to Russia, knowing that he would probably die. Yeah,
he's the bravest man. Anyway, inspirational that is. Tom.
Yeah. I almost don't want to talk about it. So my dog's barking just to prove that we're not AI generated. My dog's barking.
Yes.
So my inspiration, it doesn't even compare.
Come on, nothing ever does.
But I harvested the chilies I grew this week and turned them
Oh,
into chili
excellent. Well, that's
jelly.
good. That's good. So that's tending your garden.
Well,
Um,
I'm not a big gardener, but I am interested in food, as you know, you can't see my foot or girth, but you might, those who know. Um, and there's something very satisfying about growing your own stuff and eating it. And making chili
you had
jelly.
that chili. You had the okay. So you had that clam and pork stew, didn't you, the other day?
Oh, I was telling you about that. Yes, on a holiday to Portugal, it was called Puerco Alentejano, which is pork from the Alentejano region of Portugal, which
Nice.
stroke at pork and clams, and it was delicious.
So I
Best
actually,
news.
do you know
Oh,
what? In order to make this, I bought some pork and I bought some clams.
have you? Are you going to go
I'm
for
gonna
it?
make it. Yeah, I'm gonna make it. So
Well, you
yeah,
need to bring some in for me.
quite. Toodle pip, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
everyone.
listening.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.